Now, Dr. Seijiro Takeshita, professor from the University of Shizuoka. Many thanks for joining us, Dr. Seijiro.
Pleasure.
In your opinion, do you think a deal can be reached between Russia and Japan when it comes to these islands?
Well, it's a bit tricky considering the fact that Japan always asks for return of all 4 islands or nothing. But there are benefits for both sides. We all know that sanctions against Russia is getting tougher and tougher, and Mr. Putin is getting pushed on the corner in spite of the rising oil prices. And Mr. Abe, on the other hand, on the political front in Japan, he's smeared with so many scandals, so he needs every bit of a very positive news to sustain his rating. So there is a political motive on both sides which want to come to some kind of conclusion, but I would say this is a very, very tricky play, considering the relationship that Japan has with the United States, which is unfortunately deteriorating very quickly. So the geopolitical issue that's involved on this one is a very, very tricky one, to say the least.
Looking at the islands themselves, what can you tell us about them? Why are they so attractive to both countries? Is it just a question of territory, or is there more to that than that?
Well, if you talk about the actual sea lane, in other words, the level of the demand that each country can make on the territorial levels on the seaside, certainly it is very, very attractive. And at the same time, the aggression that the Japanese are feeling from Russia and China, it's very clear they want to avoid that as much as possible. So both in real terms and economic terms, especially in the fishery side, as well as from the security side, there is a benefit. But overall, the most important part is, of course, the political agenda in regards to this issue.
So what we're hearing at the moment is the possibility that these islands will be split between the two countries. Is that something, you already mentioned that Japan has clearly been pushing for the return of all the islands, something being pushed very much by the nationalists. Do you think a compromise in splitting the islands is something that could be reached?
I think it would be very, very difficult. It would definitely steer quite a lot of, I would say, an argument that the government might be a little bit wishy-washy in their stance. And with this, trade tension that's rising with the United States, this excessive protectionism that is swirling around the world, I think there is a tendency for Japan to stand very firm against these, accusations and these kind of deals. So at this point, I think it would be very, very difficult for any of the Japanese government to come up with the halfway solution, because what it basically means is that halfway solution means that we're basically budging towards their supposition, which most Japanese feel is quite unjust.
Okay, good to speak to you, Dr. Seijiro Takeshita, professor from the University of Shizuoka.